You recording? Recording, yes. Okay, yeah, this is empty. Turns out, for whatever reason, I cannot open the world that I was just playing on. I had it open for, like, a long enough time yesterday. It was 2 sessions, so I just kind of left my computer running. But I guess the file corrupted something, so I can't load it back in no matter what I've done. I've tried resetting the game profile. I've tried, you know, making a copy, trying to run the copy. Nothing. So I'm just gonna redo from, you know, the ground up here, and then I will return to you once I kind of am at the point where I was in that other world. That sucks. Oh well. Okay, so I said I would be back once I had caught up to where I was in the previous session, and as you can see, I've picked up some furniture. But this is a new room. I have never seen this room before. Very tall, constantly rotating chair on a little pedestal. Turntable 15? Okay. Okay. That's rather strange. And I've noticed that a lot of the geometry is much more incoherent, really. Like that. I had scary room. Yeah, like this. I had never seen an entrance like this before. Or look at that. Look at that up there. That's so strange. And yeah, tiny little hole up there. I'm gonna need like a trapdoor or piston thing to get up there. Yeah. Strange, scary things. Anyway, I'll just keep grinding, and if I see anything else scary like that, I'll let you know. Okay, I found a teleporting chair. Yep, there he goes. Hey, buddy. Okay. Yeah, not too much that I've discovered. Just kind of poking around. Pulled up a whole bunch of chairs. Found a bunch of cabinets, some fluid pipes. I'll have to go back and pull out more of that when I get the create stuff. Red carpet. That's interesting because I remember in the last playthrough, my last world, this red carpet room was kind of like sunken down. That's interesting. Alright, well, yeah. That's the update for you. I will see you whenever, but you are gonna see me right on the other end of this clap. Oh, this is the, that one funky room on the other side of... Yeah, that. Neat. Okay, cool. Kinda wraps around. Shame I won't be able to, you know, probably... Well, if I put a trapdoor here, I could probably crawl through. Infinity, okay. That was really well timed. Good job, video game. I think I'm gonna head back right now. I'll let that be. I'll go get that furniture later. Let me take these guys real quick though. Ooh, man! Even though this is like my second playthrough and I'm kind of familiar with stuff, just this is good and spooky. It's good and spooky game. How did I? Yeah, that's right. Here we go. Yeah, let me make sure I put a mark on the wall. All right. We'll be back with you in a second.
Mistakes. Well, not so, just grammar mistakes. I feel like this is the first draft of a really good story, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah. It just feels like a very, very, which is weird. I wonder how much of this too, which actually, let's finish this part and then I can go into it.
Okay. I thought immediately of Kurt. The warped girl had used him to lure me away. Maybe this meant he was dead. Maybe it meant something even worse. I didn't know either way, so I drove to his house, struggling to suppress visions of him so full of holes they split apart. When I pulled up, I saw all the lights were on. I got out of the car, almost laughing with relief. That relief soured when Kurt opened the front door. I stopped in my tracks. He looked unwell. His hair lay slicked against his scalp, and his skin glistened under the porch light. My stomach clenched, but I approached anyway.
Kurt, sorry for stopping by this late. I just shh.
Shushed me and beckoned. His movements were slow, almost clumsy.
Where have you been? I've been trying to call you all fucking day.
My skin prickled.
Why? Are you okay? Just come inside now.
An imaginary itch, dirty and pervasive, dreamed its way across my skin. But it wasn't enough to stop me. None of it was. Not the portal or the pyramid, not the eyeless monster or the long-haired man, certainly not Kurt with the deep burrowing holes in his arms. So I went to him. Up close, Kurt's wet skin looked painfully weird. Far too smooth and almost slimy, like he coated himself in a thin layer of Vaseline. His arms. Holes were gone. Whole, unblemished flesh, not only healed, but completely regenerated.
Weird.
I slowed to a halt, unwilling to march up those steps. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Instead of the usual brown, his eyes looked coppery and somehow multifaceted. They weren't Kurt's eyes. Or I realized they weren't even human eyes. 100 tiny, shimmering discs composed each iris. The eyes of the parasites that have burrowed into his skin. Okay, that's awesome.
That's super sick.
That is so cool. See what I mean? It's frustrating because this story has some insanely cool visuals. Like he realizes the eyes are just the worms inside of him bundled together to look like an eye. And now they're like, come inside. I need to talk to you. But he's eaten out from the inside. That's so cool. Such a cool visual. Parasite Kurt smiled.
Are you scared?
That's awesome. That's great. My knees felt watery and terribly weak. My car was close, but would I be able to outrun him? Would I be able to run at all? Kurt's shoulders heaved and he started to chuckle. And a voice, his voice, came both from inside the house and from the body in front of me.
I'm scared too, but holy shit. I'm gonna look.
Kurt, pale, sick, exhausted Kurt, appeared behind a shiny doppelganger. They laughed in tandem, then waved me inside. Shiny Kurt's movements were clumsier, lagged slightly. There's no doubt about it. We're moving together. I tried to run, but my knees gave out and I fell instead. Shiny Kurt helped me up, process leaving a glistening handprint of film on my arm.
Come inside. Come inside. Come inside.
One, Kurt is scary enough, but two, no chance of getting away. I followed this parasite doppelganger into the house.
What is this?
Kurt grinned with a surge of nausea. I noticed his arms remained pocketed with dark, inflamed holes.
The sunlight didn't kill them. It made them grow.
Oh man. An unsettling mixture of fear, disbelief, and irritation rattled my already shot nerves.
Your parasites grew in a new you, and you're happy? I can control him.
Kurt threw his arms into the air. Fraction of a second later, Shiny Kurt followed suit.
I can speak through him. I can see through his eyes.
He ran his hands through his hair, laughing triumphantly as his doppelganger did the same.
He's me. Another part of me. Okay, Kurt, this isn't. What if there are more inside of you? There aren't any more.
His certainty gave me a chill. For the first time since it started, I wanted no part of it.
They're all him now.
Oh man. Somehow, I talked both Kurts into sleeping. It's been several hours now. I'm worried about Kurt. Holes in his arms look infected. Even worse, I lost a lot of time. I last spoke to Kurt Tuesday afternoon. It's now Thursday evening. An entire day passed while I was in that portal. That doesn't make sense at all. According to the way the seasons change in the painting, time passes more quickly there than it does here. As for the injury inflicted by the eyeless thing, it looks alright. The edges are too pale with an iridescent sheen I can't think about for too long. I can't think about Kurt either, really. I've tried to sleep a few times, but whenever I drift off, I hear the faint sound of that piping combined with the atonal singing I heard in the labyrinth. Every time I wake up, I have to fight the urge to return to the house, to that portal. I'm finally afraid, finally seeing this entire situation for the horror show it is. Finally seeing this entire situation for the horror show it is, rather than the adventure I wanted it to be. Don't know what I'm going to do though. They know my name and have my blood. I don't think I have a way out anymore.
Into part
Man,
four. So basically,
gosh.
so what I was saying there basically is, it seems like, and I'm curious what you think about this too, with a lot of these no sleep stories, it seems like somebody has an initial idea, you know, but they don't have something planned out along the way, so they kind of keep adding because it's popular. Seems like this person has an idea, but it seems like, at least on the parts where it's like, well, I need him to go back into the portal and do something, and then come. It's like the Kurt angle seems really fleshed out and nice, like all these visuals are inspired and stuff. But the pacing of back at the house that one time, it just seems so like, yeah, he goes in there and he comes out and then he goes visits Kurt. You know what I mean? It just seems like really quick. So I'm wondering if it was maybe partially that. It's just not really having a lot of like, he just goes in and comes out.
Yeah, it's like the Kurt stuff, it's like the worm stuff was what they wanted. There's some different dimension that people get infected by worms and they change. So it's like, okay, we need to sort out the dimension, the creatures and stuff. And the other stuff seems kind of short around it. Honestly, I think if you trimmed off a lot of the fat and just had the worm thing, that would work.
I was going to say,
it's just about man that got infected during a cleanup job.
I was
going to
say
need all the stuff
exact
around
same thing. Yeah, if it was literally, if it was something of like, even if it was your coworker gets infected with a parasite and is slowly being fucked up, like you lose the, which don't get me wrong, I still like all of it. Like there's still fun, but
it feels like two different stories.
You know, kill your darlings thing again of get rid of that stuff and just focus on, because the Kurt thing is by far the strongest. Even the lines that he has, it's like great little zingers. They're all him now or whatever. Really nice. But I feel like I'm curious how it's gonna wrap it up, because now we're on part 5 of 6. And we still the cheeky bone person that we thought was a threat, but kind of saved them from being infected. You know, there's a lot of stuff still to be answered, and I'm worried that within 2 parts, can this all be wrapped up in a nice bow? Versus if it was something as simple as like, hey, my coworker's infected, I feel like you have a lot of room to play, you know, and build out from the simple premise. But we'll see.
You could push it a far way, and you could also have like, you could have more weird stuff with visiting the coworker, and then the holes develop more and more and stuff like that. You could even do some of the, like, depending on where this infection goes, you could keep like, oh, well, at the job we found a coat that was sprouted with like, you know, limbs and stuff, and the blood, flowers, like maybe those will tie into it and stuff. Again, it feels like 2 separate stories. One of them is like being more executed than the other, so maybe just split them into 2. But again, these are like, this is such an interesting story and very different than a lot of the others we've read, because there will be sentences where it's like, well, this is clearly like a problem, there's a lot to be done here. But then the next one will be like a banger. Yeah, very so back and forth.
Very elegant. Yeah. I will say, not, you know, there's still 2 parts, there's still more to the story, but I will say, having your story be set up as like people who come in and clean up houses for people who recently have died or hoarders, and they're thieves, or they're kind of pieces of shit, and they steal stuff, and you steal and you get punished by stealing the wrong thing. Like let's say it's like a fur coat or something, and that infects you. How sick is that? Like that'd be pretty cool. But okay, part 5.
Pretty cool. Part 5. Kurt has a closet full of sprouts and human bones. I found it by accident the other night after he and his parasite doppelganger fell asleep. It looked like a shrine. Tangles of also, the younger version of his wife he saw was definitely his wife's parasite version, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, it was like even the way too of like it touching him and becoming more youthful just feels like it feeds off the energy the same way that like Kurt's worms fed off him. You know?
Yeah, I think so. Tangles of vines coated the walls, competing for space with glossy, strided leaves and those luminescent night blossoms. The bones were suspended from the ceiling. Vines snaked through sockets and ribs, hoisting them up as effectively as a harness. Sprouts cover everything like confetti. Unlike flowers, they're dead. Whole but dry, fragile and crumbling from root to ground. I reached out to touch them. I don't know why. I didn't want to. It was a numb, thoughtless compulsion, almost like a spell. The greenery enveloped my arm, gentle and cool like mist. My fingertips quivered a fraction of an inch from the sprouts. and one of them twitched. Dry matter plumped and started, growing into a rich green shoot with lush leaves. The roots snaked upward. At the bottom, I saw an eye. Small, round, metallic, like that of a goldfish. I reared back and slammed the door, then obsessively scanned my skin for sprouts and eyes. I heard footsteps from the living room.
What are you doing?
Kurt's shadow preceding him, stretching over the wall.
What's in there? Evie.
He halted in the mouth of the hall. Bruisey shadows and painful hollows marred his face, making him look horrifically sick.
The real one. What do you mean, the real one? The body I found in the house wasn't her. It was the younger copy. The one I told you about.
He motioned vaguely to the living room, to his parasite twin.
More like him than anything. But not quite.
He rubbed his neck fretfully.
I'll tell you what I know. Come to the kitchen.
I did as he said, sat at the table while I clattered around trembling. He threw on a pair of yellow dishwashing gloves, then brewed tea and put together a plate of cold leftovers. He sat both in front of me, took a seat at the opposite end of the table. Only when I started to eat and drink did he speak.
Evie had a lot of problems.
Actually, from what Kurt described, Evie was insane. She claimed to be the victim of an adoption gone wrong, a kid who slipped through the cracks and been sold to a new parent. The parent was a rich woman who supposedly ran a network of private schools for disadvantaged youth. Evie told Kurt the schools were just a front for a breeding program. And whoa, whoa, just dropping that on just Roscoe from the top floor.
Welcome. Welcome to No Sleep, boys.
Watch out, watch out, watch out!
Watch out, watch out, watch out!
It's the sheriff from Roscoe in the ring.
Yeah, me and Tommy Taffy. And they duke it up.
I'm an Alpha Sam. Yeah. Yeah, it's a pedophile fight night here.
Pedophile fight night on WWE Raw.
Which goes, you know, that joke goes full circle because it goes back to your Randy Savage.
Oh yeah, yeah, that just comes in with a chair, just beats it over the back of his head.
That's the wrong answer, brother. Oh man. A breeding program and a training regimen to create what she called obedient sociopaths. According to Evie, oh wait, so not actual breeding. Breeding is in like breeding a perfect soldier. Like,
I mean, listen,
right?
we're on r/no sleep. We're doing our best.
No, wait. The next sentence says, according to Evie, the babies were using rituals. Okay, so there you go. All right, so glad we cleared that up.
Rituals for what? To create circuses, among other things.
Evie told Kurt all about circuses, basically from day one. Circus is a locus, a place where several planes of reality converge. Circuses do not occur naturally.
God, I cannot keep this up, dude. I keep thinking of like a fucking clown, like an elephant on a ball and stuff like that. I'm so fucking stupid. There's like, Evie told Kurt about the circuses, and I just think like, hello there. He's like going around. You know, come inside. Look at the whoosh, like an elephant, just like a bear on a ball, like rolling around the deal.
A trapeze act.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny to imagine that she's like, well, we were in the breeding programs. Do you want me to tell you about it? And then Hunter's just like talking to this woman, and his mind's like,
well, I would just be, well, she'd be saying all those like different planes of existence, and then I look at her and I'm like, I have like glasses on, I take them off, and I'm just like, but what are the clowns?
No, you have a clown nose on, and anytime that she says something dramatic, you honk it. Yeah. That'd be a really fun grief counselor. Yeah, exactly. Like a girl like, yeah. And I never saw my dad after that.
My father, he drank it. I just think that he'd come home and he'd hit me. Go on.
He's got a sly whistle.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know how much hurt that affected me because I started drinking myself, and I just every time I look in the mirror, all I do is I see him. That must have been hard for you. Dude, grief counselor, the clown grief counselor is sick. It's awesome. That should be a real thing.
Just talking about like her parents' abuse, and then when it's a good thing, it goes up, and when it's a bad thing, you go down.
Then I met Kyle.
He's got like blue hair off both sides of his head, and when he gets happy, it goes up. When he gets sad, it goes down.
He has a bunch of theater masks he puts on for happy and sad faces and stuff. My name's Chim Chim, the grief counselor. Please come in. My name's Boingo McBoingerton. The
last time you said Chim Chim, the story was related to a monkey. So now imagine he also has like a chimpanzee.
Yeah, exactly. Mr. Banana, would you mind giving us our file?
It's like Patch Adams, but like the way the movie depicted him. Just like, oh, yeah, Robin Williams.
Oh.
Your parents took advantage of you.
Good morning, domestic abuse. You're free, Genie. Robin Williams just swinging in a closet. Okay, all right, let's go.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry. God, I still do like the fact that Robin Williams, he killed himself, and then people were posting images of Genie with Aladdin saying, "You're free, Genie." That is actually insane to me.
Is that a thing people did?
Oh, dude, all over. You're free now, Genie. It's like, what are you talking about? The guy, like, this is not. It's not like he was fucking battling. I don't know. It's whatever. I thought it was insane.
Do you remember that tweet? I forget what YouTuber it was, but that tweet where Robin Williams' daughter was talking about how hard it was for her to deal with like the passing of her father on his anniversary, and how she never felt that she was allowed to grieve on her own. And then some YouTuber tweeted, what was it? Someone, I forget who it was, but some YouTuber replied with a meme that said, "Calm thy tits."
God. Good.
I swear this happened.
Was it Bozo McBoingington with his chimp? With his chimp table?
Yeah.
With his Mr. Bananas? Calm thy tits. Yeah.
Oh.
Also, check out my YouTube channel. I do 6-hour documentaries on celebrities' deaths, so feel free to do that.
Evie told Kurt all about circuses basically from day one. Circus is a locus. I'm
sorry. I'm actually okay.
A circus is a locus, a place where several planes of reality converge. Circuses do not occur naturally. They have to be built, and building a circus is a horrifically violent process. Even worse, the builders have no say over which planes converge. More often than not, you end up with a circus you can't control, filled with beings and artifacts that actually use you, entities that possess the ability to manipulate or rewrite reality on a whim. We can't comprehend these beings because we exist on the most mundane of planes, not due to chance, but because we, as a species, expect and require the mundane. We influence and shape our own reality to suit our comfort zone. Our collective will function as a creator force, but that collective will isn't enough to control these entities. Okay, hold on. So, again, a lot happening. Realities converge, I get that. Building a circus, you have to do a violent process, which I imagine is sacrifices that the children come from that was mentioned. and builders have no say on what happens. So it takes a bunch of sacrifices, basically. And then once you create it, it's like you are now the victim of it, effectively. It's like opening a portal to hell. You don't decide what hell does. Once it comes out, you just open the portal.
Yeah.
A proper circus acts as a cage. Like all cages, the bars rust and the locks break if you aren't careful. That was why Evie left him, her guardian, old now, on her deathbed, ordered her to take care of the circus. Kurt was flabbergasted. What kind of horror story, fairy tale, MK Ultra shit was this? I feel like Mother Horse Eyes just like zipped by and they were like, real quick. I read that. Yeah. Flip, flush your faces. Yeah. That's Evie claimed that.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you, doctor. And Jim. Evie claimed they'd kill him if she didn't do it. That his life was in danger.
Sometimes you gotta wake up and smell the roses. He has that fake plastic flower in his shirt pocket and squirts her in the face. Just kidding. Go ahead.
That's a good. You put a whoopee cushion under the therapy chair.
Oh. This coming from a great counselor. That'd be so funny. Here, have a seat. Oh, excuse you. The chimpanzee's in a cage. The chimp's in a cage and he's like freaking the fuck out. Like, shaking the fucking box.
And meanwhile, there's just a girl sitting there really scared.
Traumatized. This guy's laughing.
And once it gets quiet, she's just like, so I still haven't heard from my dad.
Yeah. Whoopee cushion. Whoa, whoa. I'll start again.
After that second one's like, well, it looks like that's all the time we have for today.
Yeah, he like cuts off as soon as the time hits. He's like, so actually, I guess we'll just schedule for next Thursday.
Get out.
Thank you so much for coming in, Rebecca.
The monkey chills out too. Like,
She just immediately falls asleep.
oh, okay.
That whoopee cushion say just really got me. It was really good. That got me really good.
One second.
I mean, just to say it's a whoopee cushion in a grief counseling chair.
I like the thing that she walks into. He's like already sitting there, face painted, hair blue, giant red nose, his legs crossed. He's like, go ahead, have a seat. He's like playing a seat. He's like playing it really straight. Go ahead, have a seat. And then yeah, just a giant wet. And it just starts the chaos. So good.
It's like the bizarre version. I'm sorry, I can't quit my thinking about the monkey just freaking out.
Don't get close to it. He's actually has to break for a second. Don't get close to the cage. Get back! Get back!
It's like the Bizarro version of that like for sale baby shoes that are worn. It's like grief counsel chair with whoopee cushion.
This is actually that. You know what that is? I said that's legitimately a good 2-sentence horror.
It's a 6-word story. Yeah.
It's so good.
All right. Anyway. Evie claimed they'd kill him if she didn't do it, that his life was in danger as well as the world itself. When he tried to stop her, she assaulted him and got her temporarily committed on a 72-hour psychiatric hold. When he went to see her the next day, she wasn't there. Not even confirmed that she'd been there at all. She disappeared. 2 years later, he found her by accident. She looked awful and was desperately lonely. A bad guardian, she kept saying. I'm a bad guardian. Then she asked him to stay with her. He was happy to do it. He worried about her. He missed her. He loved her. Next day, he zipped back to his place to gather some belongings. When he returned to Evie's house, it was gone. In place of her charming little 2-story, set a sprawling ranch house occupied by a couple with a kindergarten-age daughter and a newborn son. Kurt came back every day. Each time he saw a different house occupied by different people. No one noticed but him. After a couple more years of this, the young version of Evie came to his house, just like he'd said before. He followed her back to the circus house and made it inside, where he found the real Evie. The wrong one got violent and knocked him out. When he came to, both were gone. The wrong version returned to him several times after that. Even though he was afraid, he always followed it every time because that was the only way to reliably find Evie's house. Evie herself was never there. He saw her in the painting once, to the side of the pale, long-haired entity. Couldn't get inside, though. He was like staring through an unbreakable window. He saw them and they saw him, but they were trapped on opposite sides of the portal. Sometimes, though, there'd be dry bundles of sprouts and vegetation on his side. Over time, the taxidermy animals and specimen cases appeared too. He assumed this meant he wasn't the only one using the circus, but as of now, he's never seen the other user. At some point, claims he doesn't remember, but I call bullshit, he found out the sprouts are regenerative. All the plants from the painting are, some form or another. They bring dead things back to life. Sometimes they create life from nothing. Sometimes they transfer life between creatures. On his very last visit with the wrong Evie, he once again saw the real Evie in the painting, dismembered and filleted to death, just beyond the threshold. The barrier was gone. He ran in and cradled her. She was still warm. Wrong Evie followed him in and laughed. In a rage, he killed her, left her in the house. Then he packed up the remains of real Evie and took her home, coated her with sprouts and vines. He's been waiting ever since. Okay, so she does his painting. He's trying to use the regenerative stuff to bring her back. So our body's there, and I was right about him killing the other Evie that was basically like the maggot or parasite form of Evie. Yeah.
Right. Then why the hell do you think she's still in that painting? Because she is.
When he went into the painting with me, he followed the song. That wordless, eerie, open-throated song, all the way into the woods. Even though her bones were in his closet, Evie was there, under a giant ribcage in a grove of thistles. He couldn't touch her. She could touch him. In fact, she gave him the parasites to show him what must be done, she said. Okay, I don't think that's your wife, dude. If she's in the giant, she's under ribcage, it's like, you have to do this and it fills you full of worms. I don't think that's your wife, man.
Yeah, no shit,
sorry. She told him the secret of the god in the pyramid, that no dead thing resurrected unless it willed resurrection. They didn't want to resurrect her. They wanted to keep her. The only way to trick it is with the help of its guard, a pale, long-haired man with scales. He alone can override the will of God, but need the worthy bribe. And that bribe is freedom.
Why didn't you ever bring that painting here? Because if it isn't at the circus, the thing in the pyramid escapes.
That tracks because he said circuses are made to like keep the things in that
Right.
he wanted some of the power of, yeah. I stared down into my cup, trying to hide my anger from him. Tendrils of steam curled upward, warm and strangely soothing. I stirred the tea, taking savage pleasure in the obnoxious clink of silverware against ceramic. Crumbled leaves surfaced and spun into a vortex.
Why me? Why am I involved at all? The bribe is an escape. The guard can only leave if someone else takes his place. I need a body.
Within the whirlpool of tea grit came a flash of gold. It spun around and floated to the surface, resolving into a small metallic eye. I couldn't inhale or exhale.
The guards need a replacement, and the god needs an offering. Then I'll get Evie back. I don't want to kill you. That's why Evie did this. To show me it's safe. We have to let them grow for a little bit. Then you pop them in the sun. When it's grown, give one to the jailer and one to the god. You don't even have to go through the portal. We can control them. We can make them do what we want. It's completely safe. Yours were only in your skin. You made me drink them.
Stared at me with a sort of pained, guilty shock. The room was silent and deafening at once, and the air felt heavy. Terribly, terribly heavy. I bolted. He caught me before I reached the living room and lifted me off the ground. I flailed and kicked, driving him into the wall. His grip loosened and I squirmed away, only to slam into his parasite double. Together they dragged me into the hall. Up close, Kurt's arms were a horror show. The inflamed flesh inside the holes bubbled up and spilled over his skin like burn scars. Parasite Kurt looked almost translucent, like a thin scrim of water was strapped between layers of flesh. In a panic, I bit down on Parasite Kurt's hands. A gush of thin, sweet liquid erupted from the puncture. I accidentally aspirated it, my entire mouth and throat went numb. While I struggled to breathe, they forced me into the closet and locked the door. I fell into the pile of bones, tangling in the vines and tearing blossoms apart. When I finally straightened up, the skull dangled inches from my face. Bright flowers glowed from each socket, equal parts horrifying and dreamily lovely. All around me, the dead sprouts came to life, golden eyes opening along the roots one by one. I tried to move but couldn't. The numbness had spread, overtaking my shoulders and chest. Sleepiness came with it. The thing I saw were the eyes, 100 and 1,000, sparkling like miniature searchlights in the dim glow of the flowers. As I drifted off, I became dimly aware of a maddening itch in my heel. I woke to a sensation of uncomfortable pressure and painful tugging, like something was pulling muscle out through my skin, slowly turning inside out. My throat hurt, my arms hurt, and my foot radiating a deep, maddening itch. Everything flooded back, and I opened my eyes. Long, glistening larvae towered from dozens of holes in my right arm. Thick as tentacles, covered in round, glittering eyes. They stretched painfully, straining toward the wall. Little pockets of my swollen tissue stretched with them, tinting along the base of each larva. I threw up. Brackish fluid choked with plant matter and metallic eyes flooded my lap. I kicked away, then shrieked as something shifted inside my heel. It felt like a snake, coiling and sliding across itself.
Ugh.
My shoe shifted as something pushed it off, tickling my arch as it fell away. The parasite snaked out of my foot, rough edges scraping the skin of my heel. The sparkling serpent reared up like a cobra. Rippling fins propelled its narrow body upward. Bright blue eyes glittered from its sides, glinting like crystal in the dimness. After regarding me curiously, it darted upward and wove itself into the ribcage. All of its eyes were fixed on my left arm. Quivering, I looked down at my arm, expecting the worst. Roots and sprouts dusted my skin, but the flesh was whole and unblemished. Even the injury inflicted by the sprout beast, the wound the guard had stuck clean, was gone. All that remained was a patch of strange white flesh that glimmered with an iridescent sheen. I looked up at the larva. They too were focused on that patch of skin. That was why they were straining. They were trying to get away from it. On impulse, I thrust my arm toward them. With a volley of pain unlike anything I'd ever experienced, they plunged down into my arm. Ugh! They were big, much bigger than Kurt's, and my skin bulged with the strain. An electric burst of pain shot through my body, subsuming all my senses in a white nova of agony. I screamed helplessly, which quickly evolved into wet, painful coughing. Another torrent of fluid came up. To my horror, tiny larva whirled weakly in the puddle. I sobbed and reached for the doorknob. To my shock, it turned, spilling me out into Kurt's hallway. Soft, midday shadows cloaked the hall, but I saw clear. Clean sunlight streaming into the living room straight ahead. I tried to stand, but my legs weren't strong enough. Sobbing weakly, I crawled to the living room and collapsed in the light. Both Kurt and the double were gone. The house was quiet, enveloped in that soft, stuffy stillness peculiar to hot days. I writhed miserably, weeping and screaming as my larvae erupted. They were easily 5 times the size of Kurt's, thick and rope-like and several inches tall. Even worse, they made noises, keening, high-pitched shrieks that seemed to slice through my head. I coughed helplessly the entire time, stomach and lungs expelling incredible amounts of dark fluid. Roots, sprouts, and weak parasites came with every expulsion. It smelled sweet, almost tropical, with hints of citrus and flowers and warm rain. The larvae were too large to simply explode. Instead, they ruptured, swelling and splitting like overcooked sausages and splattering everything with thick, translucent ichor. Had I been physically capable, I'd have crawled out of the light just to escape the pain, but between the endless coughing and weakness, I was as good as paralyzed. Eventually, I faded out. A sensation of warm heat and softness woke me up after sunset. I turned over. Something squelched under me, thick and damp like jelly. I sat up and found myself wallowing in a pool of exploded larvae. Strings of their tattered skin trailed from inflamed holes in my arm, reminding me absurdly of seaweed. Their eyes lay everywhere, glinting dully in the dying light. My foot twitched, quivering. I looked up as the serpentine thing snaked out of my heel. The skin around it was baggy and pale like a blister. The serpent darted over the mass of jelly, picking out the eyes and eating them eagerly. Stomach lurching, I glanced at holes in my arms. Pus rimmed the edges, paleness contrasting with furious, swollen red. Each pit bore downwards like a honeycomb cell. At the bottom of one, I saw a quivering mass of tissue set up with small eyes. Altogether, I counted 10. 10 ruined pits of my skin glittering with fresh larvae. They're growing back. I tried to pull the rippling snake from my foot, but before I could touch it, it burrowed deep. I swear I can feel it curling around the bone. Maybe that's why I'm weak. It's damaged the tendons and muscles. Breathing isn't easy. Each inhale is ragged and thick. Soreness radiates from my ribs and down to my stomach. It's more larvae. They're inside me, I know it. I have to go back to the house because my only hope is Guard. Kurt said he needs a body as a bribe. That's fine. I've got my own slippery doppelganger growing. The larva jelly is bubbling up before my eyes, slowly resolving into a copy of me. If he doesn't want a doppelganger, I can always give it Kurt. Even now, after all the lies, I feel for him. I really do. But if he wants his wife back, he has to pay the price himself.
In part 5, man, that's sick. The description of it is so unbelievable, man. That's why I'm like, I just want the larva. The larva stuff is my favorite.
The larva's great. All the larva stuff is fantastic.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how it pieces together. I like the whole motive of Kurt trying to revive his wife, basically. It's kind of weird conspiracy he's been having, but I'm curious to see how it all wraps up because we are now on part 6 of the final part.
We're on part 6. I've always preferred pain to itching. Not that I enjoy either, but pain is straightforward. Even at its worst, pain is somehow clean. Pain also has the decency to kill you once it reaches a certain threshold. Itching, on the other hand, is filthy and consumptive. Itching can't kill you. It'll just drive you insane. In fact, if you could transform the essence of madness into sensation, that sensation would be itching. Itching was the only thing on my mind as the larva infestation worsened. Every breath produced a deep, explosive itch that wrapped over my ribs and organs. I saw vines in my mind's eye, thin and wet and tipped with golden eyes, winding their way through my body. By the time my parasitic doppelganger blinked awake, night had fallen and my larva had regrown. The new batch was small and stringy, ill-looking. They peeked out anxiously for the holes in my skin, quivering. My doppelganger was easy to control. Actually, there was nothing to it. When I moved, it moved. I was glad for this because I didn't have any energy left for conscious control. With a great deal of effort, I dressed it and together we hobbled out to my car. There was a moment of confusion when it tried to climb into the driver's seat with me. Repositioned in the passenger seat, struggling as it mirrored my movements. The larva surfaced to watch, straining the tender flesh at the bottom of the holes. The drive to the suicide house, the circus, was a hallucinatory nightmare. Things crept around inside me, prodding and squeezing tissues. The winged snake in my heel thrashed angrily, nipping my skin as it attempted to chew through my shoe. Worst of all, I couldn't stop coughing. Every fit inevitably ended in a torrent of vomit choked with leaves and tiny golden eyes. My doppelganger gagged with me, identical except for its eyes, flat and golden, comprised of 100 parasite irises. After what felt like eternity, I reached the circus and led my doppelganger inside. The living room had transformed into a grove. Vines and glowing flowers covered every surface. In the corner, dimly illuminated by the blossoms, sat the enormous anemone. Tentacles drifted dreamily, seemingly oblivious of holes goring its flesh. The five-eyed monstrosity lay before it, half buried in vines. I shuddered and hobbled upstairs. My doppelganger followed hesitantly. Through my haze, I heard voices, men's laughter, and a woman's playful, sarcastic bite, all underscored by tonal piping. One of the bedrooms was closed off. A bar of golden light flickered along the bottom of the door. The door to the other room was torn to pieces, drooping on a single hinge. My larva peeked out and pulled toward the open room. A mindless, blissfully calm compulsion overtook me. I followed their lead and ducked inside. A blanket of dead vines, curled leaves, dry blossoms covered everything except a twisted figure on the bed. The larva strained forward, eyes glittering in the moonlight. It was a warped girl, unnaturally stretched across a blood-soaked quilt. Strangely, slates lay atop each of her hands. They were piled with hairy spider legs and bloated tentacles, garnished with sprouts and dead flowers. Graphic details resolved as I came close. From throat to thigh, she was a bloody ruin. Glistening guts cascaded from her butchered abdomen. Buried in the morose was a multi-limbed fetus with several eyes. Translucent hands clutched the gory remnant of a twin. The spell suddenly broke. The larva retracted, causing a nauseous explosion of itching that radiated in my shoulder. I turned wretched and found myself face to face with the five-eyed taxidermy monster. It loped past me and lunged, plunging long, thick fingers in my parasite doppelganger's throat. Thick ichor spurted like blood from an artery, and it collapsed. The serpent in my heel quivered. My knees gave out. Slid helplessly to the floor. The five-eyed monstrosity approached and knelt before me. To my shock, it spoke.
In all their forms, the parasites overtake the ruin of your mind.
Its voice was low and liquid, almost childishly high. Lips rolled above its vast mouth the way grass rippled in the wind.
Ruined minds make outdoors.
It touched my intact arm, the one the long-haired guardian had sucked clean. The unusually pale skin glimmered faintly.
But he blows the one you.
Its cold, puffy fingers circled my head. The touch was sharp and oddly refreshing. My mind suddenly felt clear. The larva in my arm shuddered, producing a thrumming tickle that made me moan.
The caretaker will claim you again. Find him.
You just want me to trade places with it?
Painful hysteria built in my chest.
Is that him?
That's like an accusation. That's him being like, you just want me to trade places with it, like secretly.
But this is the monster, the larva, right?
No, this is our protagonist. Something like pity crossed its face.
The caretaker captures and releases charges at will. You were released once. You'll be released again, though the vines will otherwise.
Its eyes skated over my honeycombed arm.
Your friend, madman. Once you take the caretaker's place so that you will release his wife, he will confront you. He's unbended to the vines. You may not recognize him.
Looked meaningfully at the warped woman.
She didn't know.
Interesting, okay. So, like, again, I go with you. I agree that the larva is the strongest part of the story. Should just be that. But there are things about this, like, mirror extra-dimensional plot that I do like.
Oh, yeah.
That, like, yeah, Kurt threw himself to it, became a monster, now he's killed the other version of his wife, or whatever she was on the bed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's
There's
good shit in there, for sure.
Hysteria and horror continued to build, twining together like the vines.
Go. I will make a door from you.
I tore into the hall, past the room where men laughed and pipes echoed, into the taxidermy room. The specimen cases were broken and empty. No taxidermy creatures remained, and the painting showed only empty backdrops. Forests and beaches, rock canyons and golden fields, luxurious bedchambers and bloodstained dungeons. The more I think about it, the cooler this idea is of, like, if you perform enough evil, if you break the minds of enough people, have enough sacrifices, you create an intersection between all these different dimensions these creatures go through, and the paintings are pictures of the different roadways. That's pretty cool. In the center hung the familiar moonlit landscape. I ran through, gasping as deep cold settled over me like a blanket. The familiar, wordless song, beautiful, yet so very close to screaming, echoed over the plains. I veered toward the slope. The pyramid came into view, a cubist masterpiece, blinding silver in unfathomable darkness. Low veils of clouds flung to the top like a gathering storm. Itching ran along my bones as larva shifted. I hurtled toward the labyrinth, dodging thorny vines and treacherous burrows half hidden in the brittle grass. My intact arm glimmered strangely on my periphery, milky and too smooth. It frightened me in a way even the larva could not. I sped up, grimly ignoring the serpent writhing in my foot. Pale light guided me to the labyrinth's entrance. As I approached, I heard a low, resounding thrum. The ground vibrated, and a chorus of horns echoed through the night. To my shock, glittering beetles erupted near my feet and fluttered across the grass. Other creatures followed. Antlered hogs and primordial cats, giant toads, tiny foxes, with billowing clusters of tails and more. So much more. All running away from the pyramid. I reached the entrance just as a pack of long, low wolves with tusks and bulbous eyes bolted past. 6 winding paths flanked a marble promenade that led directly to the pyramid. Horns and wordless wailing echoed off the black walls. The larvae in my arm peeked out of their burrows. I fought the grip them out with pain like they would make me black out. March forward. More paths spun off the promenade, narrow and impenetrably dark. I hurried past, refusing to look lest I find something staring back at me. Man, but again, like, there's so much cool stuff happening. It's just so... Like, there's the serpent in his foot, and he walks into the labyrinth, glittering beetles, and then it's just quickly mentioned antlered hogs, primordial cats, giant toads, tiny foxes. It's like he's in another Earth. It's so fascinating. It's just so quick. I think my biggest complaint with the story is there's so many cool things happening. They're all pulling away from other cool things.
Well, that's the thing is it's two separate ideas. You know, like the painting idea is different than the idea of like the thing growing inside. It's just
the worm.
It's too much also for just a short story. Maybe if this was like a novel where you have to build up these things.
Yeah.
Maybe. But that being said, once again, as we said, like just two really cool things. But it's just which one do you want to actually commit to? Because these are two great ideas, and also too the way that he describes it, so colorful. It like just tasty. Like it's just every time you read it, you're like, ooh, yeah, it is. I like that.
Yeah, all the little paragraphs I reread, I'm like, that's pretty cool. I like that. A tall, perfectly rectangular opening loomed ahead. Glimmering steps led to the entrance. I slowed to a halt at the base of the stairs. For a paralyzing moment, I thought about turning back. This was, I thought, the very last thing I wanted to do. That moment, the serpent in my heel convulsed, sending bright electric pain coursing through my leg. It was an apt, perfectly timed reminder that actually, dying of an alien parasite infestation was the last thing I wanted to do. So I went inside. Soft smoky incense enveloped me, along with an almost debilitating heat. Vines and flowers crawled up the walls alongside veins of polished ore. Blossom and mineral glowed dimly, illuminating a septet of enormous images on the antechamber wall. 5 I recognized. A bull, a locust, a malformed wolf, a breathtakingly beautiful person, with a man or woman, and a golden dragon. 2 I had trouble with. A hideously proportioned human with wings, no eyes, 3 mouths, and a creature with a shape I couldn't quite comprehend, whose flesh glimmered with mad arrays of stars. Sharp chorus of laughter echoed through the chamber, indulgent and somehow cruel, followed by a bone-rattling roar. I spun around anxiously, looking for a door, but only saw another set of 7 images behind me. The laughter grew abruptly, both in volume and glee. My arm itched, my feet ached, and a terrible, pulsating pressure built in my chest. Breathing suddenly became impossible. A moment later, I felt it, long and wet, slithering up my throat. My gag tongue rolling back and touching the tip of a vine. Those strange, towering images swam before my eyes. Dreamily, I realized it wasn't laughter I was hearing, but screaming punctuated with a chilling, inhuman bellow. I collapsed, painfully aware of the serpent shifting in my flesh. Everything blurred together, soft and almost beautiful, as vines and larvae erupted from my throat. Tiny eyes and wet leaves glittered on my periphery. It scared me, so I closed them just as halting footsteps echoed through the chamber. I felt hands on mine, strong and cold. I looked up and saw the caretaker's strange, sharp face staring into mine. One of its eyes had ruptured, red, swollen, and unwholesomely bloated. Horror and hope suffocated me along with the vines as the guardian lowered its mouth to mine. Cold lips closed over my chin and cheeks. Vision abruptly disappeared, and I felt a bare, blissful instant of relief before an overwhelming nova of agony scorched me into unconsciousness. I surfaced to silence. So it bit down and like kissed him, and effectively purified him, the same way it had with his arm. Yeah. Gasping, I shot up. I was naked, but could breathe just fine. No plant matter or worms choked my throat. I immediately looked at my arm. Pale, plump flesh peppered with half-healed holes. I touched one experimentally. No itching, no larva. Just a dull, unremarkable ache. My heel was strangely horrifying, deflated and colorless like an enormous strained blister. The sunken hole reminded me of rotting pumpkins, but at least it was empty. No serpent, no larva, no vines. I climbed to my haunches. My hand fell into a soft pile of vegetation, and I almost screamed. It was the caretaker, shriveled and glimmering like moonlight, covered in tall, luminescent flowers that looked like lupines. Finding back tears, I inspected my skin for any scratch or puncture. There were none. The flowers had been soft, after all, softer than any I'd ever touched. Was that any guarantee? Just as I began to calm down, a low, wet rumble rumbled through the antechamber. I jumped up and saw the door where there hadn't been one before. Through the feet of the bull, low and glowing with rich golden light. A hideous, incomprehensible shadow filled that beautiful doorway and lumbered into the chamber. 7 enormous, sinewy limbs exploded from a twisted torso. 4 were vaguely human. 3 were thick vines studded with glittering eyes. Sprouts and humming tangles of bright-eyed larvae laced every inch of its raw flesh. A human head crowned the monstrosity, warped and lumpy with clusters of subcutaneous vines. A feathery anemone extended from its mouth, straining the skin to such a degree that the flesh had split up to the eyes and ears. Blood sheeted past its cheekbones, choked with vines and squirming with small worms. Dangling from a broken jaw was half an eerie, translucent fetus. A twin, I realized, to the one at the suicide house. So, okay, so I'm gonna guess this is Kurt, right?
Yeah, 100% Kurt.
And he, like, the thing's grown in him to the point that he's like, his skin is broken apart and the vines make up the most of the torso.
Yeah.
And it went to that woman who was pregnant, and then it seems to have eaten one of the twins, or like hanging from its broken jaw, maybe still alive, but probably dead. It's like a Resident Evil villain. It's such a cool description.
Yeah, it's really cool. Very, yeah, I agree. Just kind of like a weird, like, umbrella mutation kind of creature.
Yeah, like you can see where like the infection like took what pieces were there and just stretched them far past what they were supposed to be. The anemone snaked forward and spun open, barring a tangled spiral of teeth that made me think of sharks. In the center of that spiral, set into the throat like a gem, lay a massive cluster of golden eyes. The anemone shifted sharply, straining upward to offer full sight of the human head from which it sprouted. Kurt's head, Kurt's body, Kurt's mind warped and erupted and overtaken by the vines. His right eye found the dead caretaker, buried in his garden of flowers, and spun towards me, radiating madness and triumph. And I knew somehow what he was thinking. He'd won. I was a new guardian, and I would now release his wife. Sadness and profound rage swept through me just as the caretaker shifted under his glowing lupines. A deafening roar shook the pyramid. The anemone stood at attention, and Kurt looked back at the small door, panic flickering across his ruined face, then he lunged at me. The caretaker exploded from his funeral grove in a tornado of stems and glittering petals, launching himself at Kurt. He reached into that nightmare gullet, ignoring the spiral teeth, and plucked out the golden cluster of eyes. That roar sounded again. Dust rained from the ceiling. Leaves and flower vines rattled as if in a wind. The guardian ignored it and continued his methodical dismemberment of Kurt. A chorus of shrill screaming issued from Kurt as larvae squirmed and shot out of his flesh, swaying several feet in the air before diving down to the guardian. Glistening bodies swarming over the guardian's snowy arms. I turned and ran, hurtling down the promenade, oblivious to the numbing cold. I don't know how I made it back to the suicide house, but I did. Stumbled past empty paintings and taxidermy monsters who now breathed, past the warp woman's corpse and the laughing men. Salt crunched under my feet as I tore down the stairs and out into the yard. It was dark and I was panicked, so my nakedness didn't matter to me. I slid into the front seat of my car and sped home, where I inspected every inch of flesh. My hands are smooth and unmarked. My feet are not. Small scratches and punctures litter the skin, but I think I'm all right. Already healing, the skin smooth and unusually pale. Just in case, I drenched my feet in hydrogen peroxide, washed them, and sprayed them with cheap herbicide. It hurt like hell. I could barely stand and I'll have scars. It's worth it. Then I showered in the hottest water I could stand and stumbled to bed. I woke this afternoon to a very familiar painting propped against my bedroom wall. It's just a painting for now. Rich oils and silver tones depict the scene as I first saw it. A crisp spring night with a tall, human figure framed by luminescent flowers and strange trees. I left it there and went to the suicide house. Instead of Evie's 2-story house, I saw a neat little bungalow with a breathtaking rose garden. I drove by 3 times before going back home. I haven't done anything with the painting, but I need to, soon. I had a really good look at it just now, and there's a problem. In the distance behind the caretaker is another figure, malformed and multi-limbed, coated in vague suggestions of vines and worms. I don't know what happens to doorways when you burn them, but I'm about to find out. Man, gosh, dude.
Wonderful.
That was great. With the ending, that last part was like really cleared up a lot of issues I had previously. It felt like I was in another world, and like getting out and the caretaker saving him and dying and burning it at the end. That was all great.
I still think that the initial gut reaction, at least how I see it, is I still feel the same way. It's 2 very good concepts. I almost wish that the painting was more focused in on like the body horror of the larvae growing inside. It feels like you could have taken that idea, just shifted it to like this obsession of going into this painting and exploring more of all these creatures in this world. Because it felt like with how simple the larva thing was, with how quick the story was, I was really able to sink in and get into this really uncomfortable setting of a guy transforming over this particular job or whatever. But then the parallel sci-fi fantasy world was still super beautiful and descriptive, and I felt like I wanted more. Like I feel like I wanted and needed more information in that world, to where even at the end still, very quick, you know what I mean? Even Kurt's reveal, all that stuff, the Guardian kind of does his thing, and then our guy's just able to be like, oh shit, and get up and run away. I just would have loved to play around in that, because also that ending is awesome. Love that it also answers, well, how the fuck are we getting these paintings and stuff? It just shows up, and then now you see Kurt and like the person that was in there, now it's looking at him, and just that ominous ending of, I'm not sure what happens when you burn it, but I'm gonna find out, and we're just left with that. I think it's awesome. Really love that.
Yeah, I think the 2 options are either you have 2 separate stories that takes these 2 different designs, or 2 different plot lines, and then does their own thing, fleshes out each of them, so they're not competing with each other, or make this into a longer story where everything ties in. And also, there at the end, I kind of changed my mind about some of the early stuff, because we were harping a bit early on about like, well, the characters are kind of okay with this really quick, and like I need to understand a bit more why they just hopped on board so much. But at that end where we were like, it seems like that ending's where they wanted to get to, right? Of like this black pyramid and like a forest seen through a painting at the intersection of dimensions. And as they're walking through, there's these multi-creatures, and it's like, It reminds me of, it's in completely different directions, but like in McCarthy's work, right? A lot of the characters won't so much be characters in the sense of like, why aren't they talking realistically? Or that's not how humans would speak. A lot of them are almost symbols of things. Like they'll enter the picture and say like, ye carry the mark of a dead man to a dead man's land, or stuff like that. And it fits because the world around it is so drenched in itself that it makes sense that people fall in line with it. You can see in some of the writing of like Coen Brothers movies and stuff like that, right? You're not really questioning why people speak the way they do. It just feels correct for where they're at. And the things we were complaining about in the beginning, the way people act, feel like they fit in that last part. Like the lines and dialogue and all that felt like succinct in that moment when we got near the end.
I don't think that any of it was particularly. I think that it's just with the pacing of which it's going, of this being a short story moving so fast. I think that at first glance it's easy to be like, well, why the fuck would you care about this with the information that you're giving? Or like, not that why would you care about this, but like, why aren't you freaking out? You know, once again, if this was a longer, which I think that like painting idea, if given more time and more like brevity through the whole thing, I think that becomes a lot clearer. Like I don't think I'm questioning anybody's actions as much as like we're moving along so quickly, and it's just one of those things of like, oh, it's a weird painting. I'd love to go back, which it's setting up the correct beats for me, and it makes sense. But it's just a thing of like, I think you're not freaked out by that. But once again, I think like if you get more time and more, like I just think you get more if there was just more information given, and also in the short form of the story, this short story format. Sorry, I'm jumping my thoughts. Short story format. I just think that sci-fi story doesn't get to shine nearly as bright as how simple these things of going back and checking on your friend, and even the idea of like pitching like you clean up bodies and you steal something, and because you steal that, it's like a curse or something that gets put on you. Those kinds of stories weave themselves together really nicely in a nice punchy way. But this thing of exploring and there's a giant fucking pyramid and all this kind of stuff, I just think you get more, even if the characters are acting strange or acting weird. I think that even in those works of like Coen Brothers and stuff, you're still setting up the universe to play off them nicely, and you're also getting information, all the information to where nothing is like left up to chance. It's just kind of like that's just the world that it is. If that makes sense, I can't tell if I'm rambling, but anyways, it's not that I don't think even earlier that we were complaining. I think it's just kind of jarring when you walk in. You're like, oh, it's fucking weird. You know, it's not like it's a TV or something that's just on. It's a fucking oil painting that's alive. So
it's almost like, and it goes back to what you were talking about, or what we've been talking about with it. It needs to either be two separate stories or longer, because I feel like if this was longer, and imagine if there was like kind of like an intro area where it set up the world and it talks about, or maybe this main character's own depression or something, like it kind of like built up the mental image, then some of that dialogue would make more sense to sync up. Because when we got to that ending, I'm like, I could read another story twice this length from here. Like keep going.
Yeah, the payoff.
It has in a great direction.
Yeah. Just some of the beats, very fast. Very fast.
Yeah, I think again a lot of the problems comes like this can be more, and the writer certainly has potential to make it more, which is why now thinking about it, the North American Pantheon, the thing that they seem to be the most famous for, is like a multi-part series about like monsters kept in like of a sort of prison or penitentiary, so to speak. That's pretty cool, and I can see how if you give this author a lot of time, they can do something cool with it. So I understand why it has fans. So
it just felt like a case. If I'm just wondering if it felt like a case of an idea that submits a story, it does very well, because even on Reddit, it has like a lot of upvotes and stuff to where now you're quickly trying to make posts for, trying to follow up with it and stuff, and you're kind of playing it by ear versus this Pantheon kind of story. I'd love to read that one and see, and just especially if that's a thing where it's like it feels like a more curated story that something he's been working on for a long time. I think that'd be really sick, because this was a great, like, and the things I say with this, these like criticisms or whatever, the first off they're subjective, to where it's like it's just my opinion, but then also it in no way reflects that like I think the story sucks or is like faulted in any way. I just simple thoughts of when you get through a story and you read it, you're like fuck, and you kind of just like simmer with it. These are just first gut reaction kind of responses to it. But in all honesty, it was awesome. Like I think that like so many stories. The story went very big, very, very big, but it was able to be confined in a way that felt believable. I wanted to be there. There's so many of these stories where it's like, I don't know, I dare my best friend ruin my life, where it's like, I'm going big, but it's just in a very dumb kind of way, and it doesn't make a lot of sense, and you're kind of like, you're stuck in the short horror, like you're stuck in this Reddit format, and now this idea is getting too big when it should have just been much tighter, much more consolidated, and now I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum where I'm just like, I would love more, because this feels realized, this person is like taking us through the story in this beautiful way, and he's doing this large, big idea in a way that is nice, because goddamn, we read so many stories where it's like, the world's gonna end, and you're like, oh my god, like here we go. Kind of idea. So yeah, I don't know. It was awesome. I'm really glad we read this one.
They killed it. Yeah, check out Dopamine. Also, I should mention this story was written 7 years ago. So if this is them 7 years ago, I can only imagine how good their stuff is now. So check them out. Be sure to show them some love. They certainly deserve it.
And just want to say real quick, thank you so much to our Patreon supporters. Or their Patreon, we appreciate you. It's just I don't know. I love you. I'm just fucking awesome. We have extra episodes up right now. So if you enjoyed listening to this, maybe consider supporting the channel. Just get free extra content over there. And also thank you to all of our audio listeners who are listening right now over the airwaves on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We appreciate you. Be sure to give us a nice rating. It helps us out. But until next time, everyone, we will see you in the next one. Stay creeped. Bye bye.
Stay creeped, and if someone convinces you to once again run a breeding operation, that's crazy, and sacrifice a bunch of kids to open up something called a circus, don't. Thank you for watching. Bye.
Okay, so on Saturday, there was a protest outside of Westminster from a bunch of people who handwrote their signs that said, I oppose genocide, I support Palestine action. And as you can see, they all just sat there with their own handwritten signs, and loads of them got arrested. Now, I think this is all really, really petty and trivial, and evidence of a government narrative that is coming under remarkable amounts of strain and is overreaching, and so I think these protests are going to end up being successful. One thing to note here is that you can see the sort of age demographic of the protesters and the profile of them, and the fact that this is organic, right? This does seem to be grassroots. Unlike the Stand Up for Rapist protesters, where they turn out with their pre-printed signs and they bust in, I suspect these people got there themselves and did make their own signs. They must have organised this on Facebook group or something. But I think that these people did this without backing, frankly. And they did this themselves. I mean, the state isn't in support of this. The state is, in fact, opposed to this. And again, you can look at them, and I bet the average profile is white middle class, about 50 or 60. And that seems to be the information that we got after 522 of them were arrested for displaying the same kind of placard. This was, of course, under the Section 13 of the Terrorism Act 2000. And this, honestly, is just... It makes the British state look ridiculous and pathetic. Actually, sorry, it went up to 532, apparently. So they could have corrected that. Anyway, but around half of them were 60 and above. The average age was 54, I think they say in this article. And so this is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. These are white middle class, not necessarily boomers, although many of them will be boomers, but people who are well-to-do. I mean, one of them was sat there saying, Dr. Scrubs with, like, I'm a doctor, I oppose genocide. So, okay, well, the average age was 54. So these are those people who are heavily invested in society. These are not lunatic fringe radicals. These are people who will protest in the same way that Just Stop Oil protests, right? They aren't what we would traditionally characterise as terrorists, and honestly, I mean, Palestine Action is very much cut from the same cloth, and so I really actually do object to calling them terrorists when we should be calling them virtue signaling brats, because that's really more accurate. That's really what they are. Now, you remember that Palestine Action went and sprayed some paint on a RAF base in Norton, and sprayed 2 military planes of paint, including inside the engines, which did cost millions of pounds of criminal damage. Now, this is something that I don't obviously agree with. Obviously, don't go vandalise anything. And I'm not saying it's not for political ends, but the thing is, we consider terrorists people who try to kill people, usually. Now, I'm not saying that the definition of terrorism can't be expanded and isn't expanded. It is, to include property damage. But there's something about the intent behind what's happening here that doesn't sit well with me. For example, you've got this guy, Ondrej Sidlitko, whatever, a 21-year-old man, average Bradford man, who had terrorist documents, including instructions to make firearms, explosives, and poisons. This chap seems to have been intending on murdering people, right? Actually murdering people. Actually doing things that were irreversible and taking away things that couldn't be replaced. While I'm not saying they didn't cause millions of pounds of damage, it's millions of pounds of damage. It is less important. It's like it's state damage as well. It's not like it's someone's private property. So I would be more happy with them, frankly, just being considered extreme vandals and punished for those reasons. I don't think they're cut from the same cloth. And the Palestine Action people, as insufferable as I personally find them, I don't think they're trying to murder anyone over their beliefs. Anyway, this is going to go to Lord Herman, and Lord Herman, despite being an enemy of the British in all times and all places, because he is also a communist, he is going to be the one making the decision. But the thing is, I don't expect him to actually favour them or judge in their cause well, because he doesn't recognise that Palestine is a state. Now, I don't know whether he has a particular allegiance or bias towards Israel. He is Jewish, although I'm not saying that means he definitely supports Israel, or that he is definitely in favour of Palestine, because there are Jewish people on both sides. So I don't know. But given how he personally has signed a letter to stress to the Prime Minister that Palestine doesn't qualify for statehood, well, I'm going to guess that he's pro-Israel and not pro-Palestine. So it's not like the protesters are going to find themselves with a sympathetic ear. Like I said, I think this is really silly. Now, of course, these people, just in case you weren't aware, Palestine Action being a prescribed group from the damage they did to Irish Bryce Norton, showing support for them is a crime. So just sitting over the sign saying I support Palestine Action, that's a criminal offence. Anyway, like I said, what Palestine Action have done is not really substantively different to Just Stop Oil. They cost more money because I think they've done more damage to actual property. But is this then also terrorism? Because they are also advancing a political message. They are also very much cut from the same sort of demographic as the Palestine Action protesters. They're doing the same sorts of things. They're obviously not trying to kill people. So are Just Stop Oil a terrorist group as well? Why would they not also be prescribed? And one might suggest that really Palestine Action have been prescribed because the narrative that is in defence of Israel has many, many, many critics at this point. And the narrative itself, well, seems to be shaky, shall we say. It looks like Israel has lost the PR war on this one, and the criminalisation of Palestine Action is a way of trying to recapture that, or at least just suppress those people who support Palestine and support Gaza. Now, I've said this many times, I personally don't have a dog in this fight. I'm very tired of hearing about Middle Eastern countries. I'm very sick of them having any influence over my politics in this country. So I'm not committed either way, and I don't really care about either side or the people who are committed either way. If you're committed to that, okay, great. I don't care. If you're committed to that, great. I don't care. It's just not something that interests me, and it's not something that affects my evaluation of the politics, I think, for England, and more broadly speaking, Britain and the Anglo state, which are the things I really care about. And then more broadly out of that, I would suggest Europe, and then Middle Eastern countries come into my rest of the world category. And don't get me wrong, I wish well for the rest of the world in a sort of broad and quite faint sense, but like, you know, in the kind of Burkean concentric circles outwards, it's very abstract, and it's not really something I intend to have anything to do with. Anyway, as you can see, the UN Office of Human Rights find this all quite disturbing because they understand that this is just too heavy-handed for what is happening, actually, I think. And honestly, I can't help but agree with them. I think they're right about this. It's an extension of the thing that is too far. Because, I mean, this is what the counter-terrorism legislation actually says, right? Go on to Section 1 of the Terrorism Act. The definition of the thing is where it involves serious violence against a person or serious damage to property, endangers a person's life, creates a serious risk to the health and safety of the public, or is seriously designed to interfere or seriously disrupt the electronic system. So it's obviously this one that they're tripping here. But it feels like the intent isn't being properly captured in this definition. And the thing is, there is no good definition of what terrorism actually is. And the UK has 4 main pieces of counter-terror legislation because we have been unable to properly nail down what it is when we see what it is that we are talking about when we are trying to define a terrorist. I mean, now everyone knows it when they see it, right? When someone yells Allahu Akbar at an Ariana Grande concert and then blows himself up, that's terrorism. When someone is running people down the middle of the street, whether it's at the Finsbury Park Mosque or not, that's terrorism. But this, I mean, I just don't think this meets the threshold. I think what this is just a very extreme and clumsy form of political activism. I don't think they're trying to hurt anyone, and I don't think they deserve to be prescribed, frankly. And I think that it's quite worrying that the managerial state has decided that for what is quite a non-threatening form of protest. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying something, I'm not saying don't punish them. Absolutely punish them. You know, if you cause millions of pounds worth of damage to a plane or whatever, sure, you get punished for vandalism and property destruction, whatever else. And they, I'm sure they can spend a good deal of time in prison, and should. But to call them terrorists, honestly, is more than they deserve. Right? It makes them way too much a threat to the state. And I just don't think that they are, actually. Because if you look at the actual demographic of what you're dealing with, these are not people who are threats to the state. These are the state. These are all going to be people who hold professional jobs, and in every other time and place are complete. I bet none of them have never paid none of them have failed to pay the taxes. I bet most of them don't have criminal records. I don't think these people are terrorists. I think that the British state is being way too sensitive, frankly, in defence of Israel. You remember when Trump threatened to annex Canada and turn it into the 51st state? And we got a lot of videos like this, hard-ass Canadians speaking out. In fact, I'm going to play it just so you can see the kind of tone that was put across here.
Well, you know, every day I get questioned as to what my thoughts are on Canada becoming the 51st state of the United States of America. My kin were here before this country got started, and every fucking generation they've been here, they gave their blood, sweat, and fucking tears, so that the generations coming after them could have a better place than they had. And now, because of a bunch of inept and corrupt politicians, I got the fucking arrogance of the U.S. president telling me that there's a fucking monetary value to my sovereignty, and I will gladly give my fucking life defending every sacrifice, every dream, and every fucking hope that my family had. Everything that they did so that I could be here. Mind your own fucking business, Donald. Square up your own country and leave mine the fuck alone.
Yeah, that would be more impactful if Canada wasn't an insane libtard hellhole in which, most recently, they decided that several provinces had decided it's going to ban you from being able to go into the woods. Because apparently they have forest fires in Canada and it's been rather dry, and they're like, oh, well, that means no one can go into the woods because otherwise they'll start a forest fire. And so you can see it's the same kind of managerialism that we got during COVID, as this chap pointing out. The managerial class, the libtards, who are just like, oh yeah, the wonderful, fantastic rules and regulations that we get to impose on everyone. We only have one tool. We only have a hammer. So every problem looks like a nail. So that's what we're going to do. So now you're not allowed to go into the woods. Just for a nice stroll in the woods if you live in Newfoundland and Labrador, or if you live in Nova Scotia. And the fines for breaking this rule are incredible. $25,000? Are you mad? That seems a bit much, doesn't it? Hiking, camping, and fishing, the use of ATVs in the woods may be off limits for several months. You can imagine this is from adventure.com. You can imagine how happy they're about this. But yeah, so apparently front country camping and designated campgrounds are still permitted, but only hiking, camping, fishing with the use of ATVs, banned on trail systems throughout the woods in provincial crown land, including municipal parks. The ban is in place until October the 15th or until conditions change, and violators may be fined $25,000. Because the Premier of Newfoundland said he's losing sleep about more than 700 wildfires currently going across the country. So okay, Canada is massive, right? wildfires are things that happen every year. I don't know why we're acting like this is something that doesn't normally happen. But this means that you just aren't allowed to go into the woods. So what was that? Do you remember the sort of Agenda 2030 thing? I was like, yeah, we'll all live in the cities, and we'll just be able to go into the woods. Yeah, no, you bloody won't. Anyway, so the complaint is just, okay, well, there might be wildfires. Yeah, there might be. I mean, controlled burning of the brush and whatnot is what they were supposed to keep this under control. I don't know anything about that, so I'm just going to move on. But the point is, this is something that they're all doing. Now, New Brunswick apparently just asked people not to go out. They haven't, unlike the rest of them, come down with draconian rules and ruinous fines. This isn't to say there isn't a problem. Of course there is a problem, but then there are always problems. I mean, this wildfire is apparently beyond control, but no structure has been damaged in the fire thus far. And officials are warning people who live in nearby cottages. And then in other ones, I mean, don't get me wrong, not good, but they say we're making good progress on the fire, almost the whole way around it with the hose line. It used to span 35 hectares, but now it's down to 22 hectares. They are getting it under control, right? It's not like they don't know what they're doing, because it's not like this is the first time this has ever happened. Wildfires are actually not a very unusual thing to happen in somewhere like the United States or North America. So it's not like this is massively unusual. And yet, unbelievably draconian actions are being taken. And so this is just one of those things where there are groups like, well, hang on a second, this is grossly disproportionate, and I think you're just doing it because you realise you could get away with it during the COVID lockdowns. I think that you realise, actually, we do have the power to shut down the entire civilization if we so choose, and so we can just arbitrarily say, no, stay out of the woods, or else. Okay, well, that's kind of weird, isn't it? Is that, and the thing is, to tie this back to this, is that the freedom that this guy was talking about? Is that, what was this guy actually, every sacrifice and dream and hope, are these the dreams and hopes? You know, what on earth are you doing, Canada? And I say that as someone from Britain, where, don't get me wrong, we have absolutely draconian speech codes, but Canada has those very same speech codes, doesn't it? Let's be honest. I at least can still go for a walk in the woods. I mean, and I say that now, but it's literally inevitable that Keir Starmer's going to ban that tomorrow. Anyway, no, unsurprisingly, people are just memeing about this. So I'm like, God, this is dystopian. Absolutely. I mean, since COVID, you kind of knew this kind of thing was going to come about. As in, you knew that these people would do something like this in the future. And I don't think this is where it ends either, just to be very, very clear. This is just the next thing that they've decided. All right, no, we've decided that we are the managers of all of Canadian society, and today we have decreed it that you're just not allowed to go into the woods. And so you won't go into the woods because we have decreed it. This is the way that these things go, and this is the way that these people think. And this is apparently what that hard-bitten Canadian man is so desperate to defend. And a chap did indeed go into the woods and got himself a fine of 28,872.50 Canadian dollars in a fine. And it's just like, okay, this is ridiculous. This is just absolutely ridiculous. That is an unbelievably belligerent thing because he says 28,000 for victimizing somebody. Well, that's the point, isn't it? Like, who is the victim here? What actually did he do wrong? And it seems that what he's done is, I mean, the reason the punishment is so harsh is because the fault is merely against the rules themselves. He has crossed the line, and instead of the punishment being proportionate to the crime, the punishment is completely arbitrary and designed to make an example out of you and make sure that everyone else, just through power of incentive alone, just decides, you know what, it's not worth 28 grand to go for a walk in the woods. I think I'm just going to stay at home, even though this is absolutely preposterous. But anyway, Canada is a genuinely baffling place, man. So it's got 3 million Indian immigrants in it, and that's just the Indians in there. And, like, again, my family, sacrificed and suffered for their hopes and dreams, and now 10% of Canada's population is Indian, and that's just mad, isn't it? That's a huge number. Why is it that the Premier of Ontario has to ask people not to poop on the sand? Because for some reason, apparently, social media posts have claimed that people, just random people, who knows where these people have come from, they're just deciding to have a shit on the beach. Because Canadians are like, you know what? I've decided I don't care anymore. I've decided. They prevented me from walking into the woods one too many times. And now I'm just going to, obviously this predates that. But the point being, there are consequences to allowing 3 million Indians into your country. And the thing is, we say quote unquote Indians, but Indians are not all the same. India is a subcontinent. There are 1.5 billion people there. There are hundreds of different ethnic groups in India. There are different castes. Like the whole thing is not one homogenous group of people. And so what kind of Indians are you getting? You don't know, right? But you're always going to be able to vote your way out of this. You can vote for Indian, or Indian, or an Indian, or another Indian. And this is the country that had an Indian prime minister telling you, look, you got to vote for an Indian whether you like it or not. You're getting an Indian, my friend. So anyway, going back to the chap at the beginning, I mean, your sovereignty, that's an interesting concept. Where do you have it? It looks like you are appealing to a paradigm that's frankly moved on, and a world that has moved on without you, and one that speaks Hindi, and tells you that actually you are under the heel of a liberal world order that is in every aspect of your life, even to the point of walking into the woods. And the thing is, I know I'm being very blasé about all of this, but it's got to the point now where there's just no getting around the fact that the Western countries aren't really free countries anymore. What they are countries that have the masquerade of freedom. We used to be free countries, and when this chap was growing up, I'm sure he felt like he definitely was in a free country. But now you can see the scope of the bureaucratic state. You can see that there is no limit to that which they will interfere with. And there's no limit to the scope of what they believe their powers to be. If they believe, oh yeah, no, actually, I have the authority to tell you you're not allowed to walk out of your house, you're not allowed to go into the woods, you're not allowed to be racist and therefore criticize mass immigration, you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that. They don't have any limits on the things they think they have authority to impose upon you. And so this guy talking about my sovereignty. So, is Donald Trump really the threat to Canadian sovereignty? Are you saying that from the town or cabin that you live in because you're not allowed to leave it? Like, what are you talking about? I think the threat to your sovereignty is coming from your own central government, in the same way that it's coming from my central government and everyone else's central governments. Like, I don't know whether you know, it's like Ursula von der Leyen apparently put forward a bill the other day that allows them to arrest journalists if they feel like it. Who voted for Ursula von der Leyen? And the answer is nobody, because she wasn't elected. And if they want to get rid of her, they don't have an option to do that. And so they can just suck it up. And frankly, we're all just going to suck it up, aren't we? That's the thing. None of us can do anything about this. Like, we're just going to watch as the world becomes more and more tyrannical. And Trump's America, for all the faults that Trump might have, for all the faults the Americans have, and they have many, they at least are going to be able to make some better claim to being a sovereign and free country than we are. And it's not like we were even conquered. We did this to ourselves.
Miners. It's also. Bueno. Okay, sand comes from crushing gravel. Okay, and the crushing wheels are cheaper. Yeah. Okay, well, that's good. Shoot.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk to you all about An Idiot Abroad, and I only wish that it could be the endearing, comical type of idiot abroad, like Carl Pilkington. But unfortunately, there's a much greater idiot at large, much more insufferable, with no seemingly redeemable qualities
What
whatsoever.
did he do to you, Luca?
He bothered me.
Okay.
He bothered me greatly. Before I talk about why he bothers me so much, though, let me just tell you about something that doesn't bother me, which is the new Island. Terrible segue.
It's actually a good segue.
Oh, well, so far too self-deprecating. But anyway, Islander issue 4 is out now, ladies and gentlemen. It's a wonderful issue. Rory, again, you go through it. The aesthetics are terrific. The essays are very, very intellectually nourishing, and there's some fantastic writers in there. I've got Ed Dutton, got Morgoth.
And you've got Sting on the cover, I'm not quite sure why, but...
No, that's Rory.
Okay.
That's Rory. He posed for it, and we shaved his head. But otherwise, do go and buy it for $14.99 on the website, as well as the merch store as well.
You're contemplating how fragile we are.
Yes. Well, I can actually, oh no, is this? Yeah. You can see here, there's all sorts of little esoteric symbols in there. What does it all mean? Go and read the magazine and find out for yourself. So, gentlemen, shall we discuss the idiot? We have here Brian Krasenstein, who is, honestly, you know, you just get those left-wing reply guys on Twitter, just all the time. You know, when Musk took over, they all said, oh, we're going to leave. And to be fair, there was a mass exodus to Blue Sky. But of course, some of them remained to torment us. And I wanted to go through Krasenstein's here because it's a perfect contradiction. It's a perfect contradiction. So he goes through and he just says, I just returned from 2 weeks in Japan, and I have to be honest, it really opens my eyes to how far behind the United States is falling in so many basic ways. Some things that stood out. In 2 weeks across some of Japan's most densely populated cities, I saw only 2 visibly homeless people. I saw 1 person who appeared to be struggling with addiction. High-speed rail made affordable, clean, efficient transportation the norm, not a fantasy. I never once felt unsafe letting my kids walk freely beside me in public. Despite having far fewer public trash cans, Japan's streets had a fraction of the litter. The country's reduced income inequality was visible everywhere, from housing to public services, and I already know what some far-right folks will say. It's because Japan has low immigration, or it's not run by Democrats. But those are lazy excuses and distraction from the real issues. The truth, we've normalized dysfunction in the United States, and we make excuses for it instead of demanding better.
Yeah, but you see how he has already... I think he... Right, so I'm trying to understand what he and his brother are going on about, generally speaking. And I think that...
You'll never win.
Maybe. But if you scroll up a bit, you see essentially he has put forward the alternative explanation of the left, which is, according to him, reduced income inequality. So for the left, it's only and it can only be an issue of money, not culture. So every time you see any kind of problem coming from the left or from the people the left is supposed to defend, their knee-jerk reaction is, we need to raise your taxes. Is there more crime in, let's say, migrant communities? Yes, they may accept it, but the remedy is to raise taxes in order to give more money to them.
It's always blamed a bit.
But even if, and I agree with you, Stelios, but even if, say, for argument's sake, that his economic presuppositions about inequality driving crime were correct, say that they were, does it not also follow that, well, can you not address income inequality and also not import millions and millions of people every year?
Good idea.
Right?
Yeah, the issue is, though, that according to... It's one thing to say that income inequality is a factor, and quite another to eventually treat it as the one and only factor.
Yes, which...
They may not say this explicitly, but generally speaking, this is the pattern, the way they go about it.
Can I say one thing? He's not even saying this caveat because they've been savaged so many times on Twitter. Because he's saying, I know they'll say that. Because the left are not even aware of these arguments. Now they become aware because they're on X and it's been taken over. So he's going, I know you'll say it's because of immigration. By the way, 2 visibly homeless people in Japan is a cause of great shame. Someone had to probably do ritual suicide and disembowel themselves out of pure shame. You know what I mean? Even the 2 in Japan is like, the streets are not safe.
So dishonourable.
But he's completely wrong because Dr. Paul Morgan's talked about this. Japan. Have you heard him talk about the trilemma? He says that when you've got low birth rates, there's 3 options. He talks about he says countries choose from 2 of these 3, but they can't have all 3. So you've got economic growth, you've got ethnocentrism, and you've got what he calls egotism, which is just conveniently to have another E, meaning not having children and pursuing your own life. So he says you can choose 2 out of 3. And he points out Japan chose ethnocentrism and egotism as in not having children, so they've lost some of the economic growth. That was okay. Whereas like Israel has got the ethnocentrism, they have a high birth rate, and they've got the economic growth, they haven't got the egotism of not having children. So we've chosen this country economic growth and the egotism of not having children, but we lost. He's calling it the
And we didn't even get the economic growth.
We didn't even get it. So you didn't get one of them. That's what he's saying something else about it.
But also notice how the word culture doesn't feature in this post.
Oh yeah,
Because
absolutely.
he talks about there being no fraction of a litter, and one of the main features of Japanese culture is cleanliness. They tend to think of public spaces as their own spaces rather than just trash cans.
Right. And what's more as well, the fact was that they used to have rubbish bins all over the place, but they were taken away.
This is what they took from you.
Look at what they took from us.
I suppose the other way you can do it is just authoritarianism. Singapore, I certainly may have said it before, but Lee Kuan Yew looked at England and he said, wow, this is an incredible high-trust society. People paying for papers and leaving it the right amount, whatever, not taking them, all these things. And he just looked and said, we can never have that in Singapore. But the only way we can try and achieve it is just with authoritarianism, which is basically what he did. Because he had this multicultural setup of Indian, Malay, and Chinese.
Japan is considered very high trust.
I know, but the only other way to achieve this is in a multicultural society is with authoritarianism, is what I'm saying. And then you might end up with a similar level to Japan, but they would achieve it through high trust, like you say.
And that's and again, we just seem to lose out because we have the multiculturalism now. We're definitely getting the authoritarianism, and we still don't have any of the perks of what it's all about. So,
Oh, I should set my timer.
Here's a little bit of context. We have streamer Destiny being grilled by Piers Morgan over an issue of morality. That's how we get morality in 2025. We watch the news and we see what hot takes some random schmuck had in his bedroom, and then society gets to decide, is it moral to think this way? Are we allowed or should we condemn? And Destiny, right, the streamer, a schmuck in his own bedroom, has said that the reason children died in a flood in Texas is due to the fact that God killed them. And God killed them because they were using NordVPN, promo code Destiny, to get around the Texas porn ban. At the time, the Texas porn ban was actually worshipped by many Americans, saying that this is the way, this is the future. Until the United Kingdom said, well, if this is the future, like, let us join it. And Australia's go, like, let us join it. And now I see right-wingers horrified saying, no, not like that. But still, the issue of the matter is Destiny making this joke, right? Like, he's laughing at children that died. Well, in reality, it's not like that. In reality, he is taking the opportunity. Like, he sees children dying, and it's like, well, this is a golden opportunity for me to make a point. And he did it, and he got grilled by Piers Morgan. Now, the way Destiny tried to spin this around is by saying, look, the reason I did it is to show that right-wingers cannot stand edgy humor. Like, you guys say that you want free speech, you guys say that you champion freedom of expression, but in reality, look, you worship the Texas porn ban, and when I make a joke, you try to go after me, and you try to cancel me. You're all a bunch of hypocrites. Like, when the left was banning you, and the left was suppressing you, they did nothing wrong. Like, my side was in the right, we got power, and we used it. So that's the argument Destiny tries to make. And so recently, he watched Asmongold. And he points out that, look, when Asmongold is laughing at jokes with children dying, no one is going after him. So, like, this isn't about principles, this is about your side and my side. And so if that's the case, then my side is fully justified on banning your ass. My side is fully justified on taking control of corporations and then enacting its power, because this is how the game is played, right? So, let's see if he has a point. Like, was Asmongold actually laughing at children dying, right? Was it the same thing what Destiny did? So let's watch the video first, and then we can comment.
See here, the United Nations has reported that 68 African migrants have died and many others are missing following a shipwreck. Do you remember what I said yesterday about where things are going to shift to? Let's read the comments. I told you guys. Isn't it crazy that it took one day for that to happen?
Okay, so after analyzing, after contemplating, and understanding, like absorbing what I have seen, I can come up with the conclusion that Destiny is a moron. It's not because he's not an intelligent person, but it's because as a human being, he has decided to give up critical thinking. Like, he looked at the skill that only human beings can do, which is critical thinking, and he was like, no, I don't want this. And instead, he embraces collective thinking. Collective thinking is like my side, right? Like, my side, what do they think? Asmongold, man, bad. Okay, so everything that Asmongold says is probably bad. This is not Asmongold laughing at people dying. This is Asmongold having a nervous laughter because he is right. Now, any person that actually takes the time to engage with Asmongold content and understand what he is saying, you would know the following. Asmongold is not a right-winger. Asmongold, just like myself, is an atheist redditor, if you will. You know, we're the type of people that just like to grill. We don't give a shit about Destiny's politics. We don't give a shit about right-wing politics. Unfortunately, however, people keep stuffing their politics up our asshole. So it is what it is. You know, every decade or so, we have to ally with the left against the right, and then we have to ally with the right against the left. It's a never-ending battle. We're probably the group of people that gets federal system, to be honest. It's not through voting, but it's through purchasing power. Like, we literally support the companies that are against the ideology that's being stuffed in our ass at the time of day. And so when you understand this about Asmongold, right, like, he cares about entertainment, he cares about tits, and he cares about violence. He wants to play video games like World of Warcraft with sexy night elves beating each other up. That's what he is. That's what I am, right? And I want to be able to create my own ideology for myself and my family, which other people don't have to partake in, right? But unfortunately, as I mentioned before, like, there's other ideologies that go like, no, every single person on planet Earth needs to fit under our moral framework, even if they're from Romania and we're from Australia. And so when that happens, you start to notice things. And what you notice is that the more authoritarian people get, the more they push and push and push, the more people they piss off. And when they piss off a large number of people, eventually people push back. And the backlash is a lot worse than things used to be. And this is what Asmongold is noticing. Like, he is saying that because the left have pushed so much, have refused to engage in dialogue, have refused to even consider that maybe the other side is human too and we should find the middle ground or anything. They refuse to do that. And because of that, the conversation happened without them, and now the backlash is to the point when you see a ship capsizing, something that in 2014, it would have been a tragedy and everyone would have gathered around and might be like, oh my god, that's horrible. Now in 2025, people are making memes and jokes about it. Why? Is it that they're upset about the people there? No, it's because of the ideology, right? Now take into account the people that are making those memes and jokes. They buy things, they support things, they promote things, they vote. And so the left's answer is to suppress them. But by suppressing them, you're not getting rid of them, you're not eliminating them from society. They still exist, and they will still vote. And this is what Asmongold is saying. It's like, you're going to get a culture that's going to be anti-woke. And it's not going to be anti-woke because of critical thinking or because of, trying to figure out which way is correct. No, they're going to do literally the opposite of what the woke does. And how does Asmongold know that this is going to happen? Well, it's because that's how the woke came into existence. They looked at the boomers. And the woke did literally the opposite of what the boomers did. 180 degrees on every single stance, on every single issue. And before the boomers, there was the hippie culture. And the boomers did literally the opposite as the hippies. And the hippies did literally the opposite as the generation that came before. It's a pattern in history almost. And this is like something to do with the Anglosphere, I believe, where they have no fucking chill. Like they generally don't understand that certain things can have context and nuance, and maybe you shouldn't be that radical, maybe you shouldn't have like an on-off switch and everything, and maybe a nihilist. But no, it's basically like the previous generation supported that, so we need to be 180 against it. No exception. And then your children are going to be the same. And Asmongold is basically watching this, and he's noticing it, and he's basically saying, like, you don't know what's going to come in the next 10 or 15 years. Like the left has taken the internet, which used to be neutral, like no one was touching it, and they also took corporations, which also used to be neutral, and no one was fucking with them, and they forced these entities to be political. And so they justify the tactics, right? And you get Destiny being upset, oh, well, I'm making some jokes and people are after my ass. Yes, the left trained them to be like that. Jokes are not allowed. And you can say, well, yeah, but like right-wingers, you don't believe in free speech. They used to. Ironically, like when Destiny got banned from Twitch the first time around, I remember right-wingers siding with him. I remember many people talking about it. It's like, yeah, I hope that Destiny had a megaphone so that everyone can hear his take. Because at the end of the day, he's unhinged, right? So like that's a good thing. Like people should hear it. Like this is what a leftist looks like. But now people are so vindictive because they seen their friends banned. They seen that their neighbors getting suppressed. They seen people losing their jobs over jokes that were like 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And so, you can have a principle, but when you see that everyone else is playing against your principle and no one cares about it, like eventually people stop having the principle and people are going to be like, okay, well, fuck it. If censorship is the thing, then so be it. Seriously, like imagine going to a board game meeting and everyone is cheating and you're the only honest person there. Like at some point you're going to start to cheat as well because it's like, well, okay, well, if no one plays by the rules anyway, I'm not going to be an idiot. And this is what happens with right-wingers. It's not that they don't believe in free speech, is that they used to. Like I'm looking at Sargon of Akkad, like the previous stream that he had with Arch. Sargon is a friend of mine, and both of us like also agree that freedom of expression is good, that censorship shouldn't happen. And recently he goes on the Archcast, and he's like, no, actually, like something should be censored. Like that's a good thing. And how did he become like that? Well, he became like that by being jaded, by people constantly censoring and suppressing him, to the point where he basically doesn't believe that the world without censorship yet existed. Might as well be his censorship, and might as well his neighbor's goat would die as well. And unfortunately, yeah, I think Asmongold is right. I think this is like the next 10 years. This is what we're going to get for 10 or 15 years until things will change again. Not for the better, I think. I think it's just like going to be different censorship on different issues. But this is how we're getting the internet fucking censored, right? It's like it's a right-wing talking point. Think of the children. The left doesn't think of the children. The left thinks of women and minorities. And now it's like, okay, well, let's think of the children. So fuck internet anonymity. Fuck the internet freedom. Everything has to be censored. Fuck internet competition. Good luck creating a new platform without being able to have this robust internet verification nonsense. It's because censorship is here to stay, right? So Asmongold notices, people notice, and this is why they criticize Destiny. Like, yeah, Destiny kind of has a point. Free speech is dead. No one believes in it. It's not a thing that people rally behind, and the left killed it, at least on the internet. Anyway, right, let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.
Benapinat is an doxer and harasser. You go on his Twitter account at any time, you can see him doxing people. He's probably the most famous for being the one who claimed he called CPS on Ethan and Hila. He's constantly encouraged and defended people doing it. He literally opened up a CPS merch line because he thinks it's so funny.
Got a hat, I did CPS, the CPS logo with the two skulls, of course, two skulls. Not a reference to anything in particular.
He knowingly defames people. In my last video, I pointed out that Benapinat constantly claims that Lonerbox's dad was part of a militia group that killed a bunch of civilians. No evidence for it. His response is to give the most forced laugh I've ever heard. And then he just doubles down on everything he made up.
He complains that I call Lonerbox, that I said that Lonerbox's dad participated in the South Rancho massacre, which he absolutely did, by the way. Lonerbox has never disproven this until he disproves that it's true.
So I guess I shouldn't be surprised that when my docs gets found, Benapinat immediately posted everywhere. Uploads a video blasting my name, my bride's name, the address of her wedding, all over the internet. It's also come out that he's swatting people, filing fake police reports, all while plugging his Patreon. So I figured if he's making money off of my docs, I should too. So thank you, Extra, for helping me cope. Do you have a big fat bulky wallet that's worn and beat down like this? Is your friend or family member living with the same burdens in life? Well, my this key cases to backpack off your order. Thank you, Extra, for sponsoring this.
In which he attacked.
Where are we? Oh yeah, Benapinat fabricating entire background stories about me and my wife.
A certain slop tuber who does nothing but make videos in which he attacks pro-Palestinian people and de facto, as a result of that, helps to further Israel's genocide in Gaza, has been outed as having been honeypotted by Israel. Israel is literally assigning slop tubers government-assigned Israeli wives.
Man, Assad's really good at their job because me and my girl started dating 8 years ago and I was still a nobody on YouTube.
Though the slop tuber in question is Willie Mack-Show. He's suddenly making pro-Israel content constantly. He's suddenly making nothing but videos attacking pro-Palestine people.
I covered Assad before all this. It just turns out a war starting in the Middle East didn't make him any better at covering the news. So guess what? I was able to make more YouTube videos. He never addresses my actual points. It's just character assassinations for why I should be doxxed. Benapinat then doxes another YouTuber with the justification that he's a Nazi and that is for journalistic insight. And then he says that's why it's important to dox me and my wife because she's Israeli.
You're actually allowed to reveal personal information about people, especially their real names, if it's within journalistic interest. If there is journalistic reason for doing so. And exposing a clear conflict of interest in this guy's content and his personal life is journalistic interest. It's why, for example, I can tell you that the YouTuber Zoom Historian, a neo-Nazi history YouTuber, is this guy. I can tell you this because it is within journalistic interest to do so, even though he did not release his information himself publicly. Just like how I can tell you that Willie Mack-Show is William McConville, and he is getting married to Yale. Now, I'm not going to give you the full name of the person he's getting married to.
He literally just scrolled down and showed her full name. I reported the video and he added this little blurb, but it still doesn't cover her name.
She is Israeli, and she was assigned to him by the Israeli government. They've taken down this page, but as you can see, it is freely available on Google. They, for some reason, as the guy who's a public figure, decided to just publicly announce in public his wedding.
How is this allowed on YouTube? He does this thing where he constantly tries to justify his reason for doxing me. He's like Ethan doxed Denim when he sued them.
This guy has no right to complain about revealing his real name to be doxing. Because Willie Mack Show went on the H3 podcast, which is a podcast that frequently doxes people. In Ethan's recent video talking about his lawsuit against 3 young women, he included unredacted legal filings that he made that include their real names and their real locations.
That's just how legal filings work.
Here's a video clip of Ethan Klein doxing a random Instagram commenter on his show. Ethan goes through the guy's Instagram, brings up pictures of his family members.
Commenter commented from their Instagram account with their full name talking trash to Ethan. It had loads of pictures of them and their family on it. I didn't get sued. I didn't comment on your video with my full name. At the end of the day, my crimes are marrying a Jew and going on a podcast. He's nonstop lying about me and my wife, saying she was in the IDF. His fans are saying she murdered babies. He's saying propagandists should die as he's calling me a paid propagandist. They're saying we're valid targets. He posted a photo of what he thinks is my wife in the IDF, but they're actually just pictures of random teenage girls. I asked my wife what this was, and she thinks it's the Israeli Girl Scouts. So he's just posting little girls on Twitter. My wife didn't serve in the IDF. She came over here at 3 years old. On top of it, he doesn't even know her politics on that situation. He's just being racist. But the worst thing he did was post the date and address of her wedding the week before it took place. He does it multiple times throughout the video, showing an archived page of our site because we did take it down to try and hide it. But nope, there it is. The time, the date, the address.
Yale and William McConville are getting married very soon. Yale, who is Israeli and Israeli government provided wife.
So now our wedding is being messed with, and they were wasting the time of our venue, the hotel, and 2 police stations. It cost me thousands of extra dollars in insurance and potentially closing down the entire building. And my bride is coming up to me and asking me if we're about to be double homicided at her wedding. I'm like, no, baby, these people don't leave their mom's basements. But she sees the news. She saw 2 low-level staffers at the Israeli embassy get shot and killed. She's worried. So I'm being told by the police that I should go online and see if there's any direct threats. And I see a video made by a guy who hates me, showing all of my information and giving a hypothetical where I'm a valid target because Destiny's a hypocrite.
Stevie said anything involving this bad empanada guy or anyone that supports him is justifiable, Ammo. Anything is justified against bad empanada and anyone that supports him. Let's apply those standards. Why are we saying this about bad empanada? Well, it appears to be because bad empanada docs Willie Mack's wife. So would Destiny be saying that those who dox people, those who make calls to violence or allusions to violence, should be fair game? And all of their supporters, all the personalities that back them up, all the chatters that back them up.
This is essentially a Destiny snark community. This guy's narrative for the past 6 months is that I'm covering for Destiny despite me making 2 of the most in-depth videos criticizing him. Their evidence behind this is I said Destiny is better at covering the news than Hassan and Vosh, which is somebody who's made videos on all 3 of these people. I think that's objectively true, but I digress. But most importantly, it's that when these 2 do something stupid, I make fun of them back. The truth is, Bad Empanada did not originate my docs. He maliciously spread it everywhere, but my docs originated on a niche forum by this guy's unhinged viewers. So when I see this clip, it's obviously a dog whistle to fuck with me. He literally gets a donation that says, I understand what we must do. Wink, wink.
Anything is justifiable against Destiny and the people who support him. No? Is that not the standard? That's what he's laying out for me here. Now, I have principles. I don't think it's no bad tactics, no bad targets. That's not me.
As he's literally showing my docs.
But Destiny is very clearly laying out that those are the standards that he believes in. Those are the standards he wishes to be enforced. Because if you're a doxer, if you call for violence, anything is justifiable against you supporters.
Order taken.
Okay, that's not what I'm saying, Max. Actually, I just explicitly said otherwise, actually, Max.
He's got a shit-eating grin on his face. He knows what he's doing. This thing gets retweeted by his friend J-Stalk, who pushed the exact same narratives about me. I'm obviously very unhappy about this. It's affecting my real life. But instead of anyone actually acknowledging this, they do what Bad Empanada did and try to hypocrisy hunt to justify their actions. They're like, why aren't you mad at Destiny? He quote tweeted your docs too.
Why aren't you mad at Destiny himself?
Destiny's defending my already viral docs. It's already in the hands of all the people who hate me. We're acting like context and scale don't matter. It was actually kind of nice to see someone with a big audience who I criticized in the past stand up for me and say this is wrong. But look at this comment. Willie refuses to acknowledge the obvious, that Destiny is the biggest proponent in spreading his docs. No, it was actually Bad Empanada who did that. Do you know how time works? They hate Destiny so much they're ignoring the very reality we live in. That's where I don't get it all. Is he perfectly fine with his docs being spread around as long as the person who's spreading it is condemning it? At this point, my docs is already spread. The toothpaste is out of the bottle. What bothered me most in this moment was the narrative that I deserve it, or that it's part of some greater Destiny justice. If Queen pulled up my docs and only said Bad Empanada sucks for this, I wouldn't care. It's the dog whistle call to action that's the problem. It's so obvious. Yet I'm seeing respected commentator Augie call me a hypocrite because I said doxing is wrong.
This is from a month ago. Willie says you should delete this. It's just doxing and a shit thing to do to someone whose worst crime is being annoying on the internet. So you have that situation there. So there is twice replying to JSock's docs, but then he got upset about fucking his docs being shared.
Yeah, holy shit, it's as if context matters. It's as if me calling out a tweet that already has 100,000 views doesn't add any negative effect. He pearl clutches and gives this big performance about my quote tweets.
I showed you 2 times. Here he is doing a 3rd time just a few days ago before I even did the stream. And I actually had to tell him, I was like, dude, delete this shit, right?
But on the same stream, Augie shows the uncensored link of JStock's docs. He also replied under JStock's docs on Twitter. So what are we talking about? Are we gonna call Augie a doxer? No, because they don't actually care about this. He's just being performative to justify what's happening to me. Augie acts confused throughout this entire segment.
Literally days after threw hissy fit. Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't really make any sense to me. Like, what the f are we talking about here? I mean, what argument are we making here? This is just crazy. It makes no sense.
I know why he's confused. It's because he never plays the original clip that made me mad in the first place. He just summarizes as they criticize Destiny, and that's why Willie's mad.
Too bothered by this, but instead he was bothered by some stuff that Queenan and JStock were saying. And basically what they were saying was it's kind of hypocritical for Destiny to get upset at, Willie Mack bringing docs when he has a history of doxing people and is currently right now calling for their doxes, right?
So he never plays the context and acts like the reason I'm mad is because they called Destiny a hypocrite. Nothing about my wedding or my bride. How is that possible unless you're being bad faith? I'm not even sure if Augie knows what a dog whistle is. He's like, unless Queen pulls up Willie's docs and then says, I love doxing Willie, it's all fine.
It wasn't really a point against Willie Mack. It was mainly a point against Destiny. I don't think at any point Queen was like, yeah, he got doxed, I love that, I don't think he ever said that, right?
Bro, if you're this stupid, make life better for everybody and just quit. Destiny has recently doxed JStock and Queen. His motivation behind this is that everyone they associate with him ends up getting doxed and harassed, so he's doing it back to them. The victims I know are Destiny's girlfriend, Dan Saltman and his family, me and my wife, Hutch and his family. Augie pulls up Destiny's employee saying she was swatted.
I was also swatted. Now, why would she be saying that she was also swatted in a reply to this clip? Is she saying that JStock and Queen had some part in her getting swatted? Or that their communities had some part in this?
Yes, obviously, but it's all just a coincidence to Augie. Augie pulls up another example of a Destiny viewer saying they're getting threatening letters sent to their house, and Destiny's like, I don't believe them, but even if that happened, it's still not that community's fault.
A couple months ago, because I'm a fan of Destiny in the JStock server, someone in his community sent a letter to my home. I've moved since then. Thanks for telling us, by the way. To my house saying I defend Destiny because I want to rape my wife and my patients. I'm gonna put an X to doubt on that one. And even if it did happen, right? Who's responsible for that?
What about the guy dog whistling that I'm a valid target and getting a dono saying they understand his orders?
Anything is justifiable against Destiny and the people who support him.
I don't think creators are responsible for every one of their unhinged viewers, but it is not normal for a community this small to have so much doxing coming out of it. I've made videos on communists, Nazis, misogynists, feminists, scammers, and traffickers. People with millions of followers, yet this tiny little community is where all this doxing takes place, and it's just out of their hands. Dude, they're obviously feeding into it, but Augie knows nothing. He can't even recite me goofing on them accurately. JStock has criticized Destiny for creating a metaphorical rape machine, partially because he had sex with BPD girls. Then when these girls call him out for being abusive, everyone thinks they're just crazy. JStock then had sex with the same BPD girl.
Everything Destiny's saying here is true. Actually, it's not true. Actually, everything Destiny's saying here is complete bullshit. Destiny says, and to think that this was the same guy, JStock Juicesucker, who spent the last year saying having sex with mentally ill people equals rape. Crazy, huh? No, you retard. That was never the argument that you have sex with mentally ill people.
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Yep, it's pretty much exactly as I've been saying it. This is why you never give in. Democrats and their ridiculous tantrums and emotional manipulative games, basically they want you to blink. They're trying to intimidate you into choosing the path of least resistance, the cowardly path of basically just giving into their manipulation tactic. These leftoids love to lecture about fairness and democracy, the so-called rules of the game, right? That is, of course, until it isn't going their way, then suddenly it's screw the rules and do whatever it takes. Their words, not mine, by the way. And this week in Texas, they flat out admitted on stage, exposing themselves as the shameless political cheaters they've always been. They're not going to guilt trip MAGA into not taking a redistricting advantage here when they're the freaking CEOs of gerrymandering, and now they're threatening to gerrymander even more because Texas decided to do it. They're the biggest hypocrites, and you can't give in to their pressure tactics. We will not be guilt tripped or gaslit into doing their bidding. Let me show you guys this hypocrisy. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks. So we've got Beto O'Rourke and Mark Vesey here, two high-profile Democrats who just took the stage and basically said the quiet part out loud. Look at this.
That's the message that needs to be sent. And to these other blue states that are out there, with these blue governors and blue state legislators, I don't want to hear about this bullshit about what y'all's constitution. Y'all need to have a special session. And you need to get to redrawing their asses out in Washington. Get to redrawing their asrs out in Illinois. Get to redrawing their asses out in New York. Get to redrawing their asses out in New Jersey. Get to redrawing their asses out in Maryland. You're not going to let him stop us. Are you with me on that? It also means, as Mark was saying earlier, we don't await the punch thrown by these would-be fascists to land. We punch first, and we punch harder. We want California and New Jersey and Illinois and Maryland and every other state where the Democrats hold the governor's mansion, the assembly, and the state senate to redraw their congressional districts now, not wait for Texas to move first, to maximize Democratic Party advantage. Listen, you may say to yourself, well, those aren't the rules. There are no refs in this game. The rules. We are going to win whatever it takes. We're going to take this to them in every way that we can.
Exactly what I've been saying since day one. If the roles were reversed, if Democrats were in the position that the Texas GOP was in right now, they'd be doing the exact same thing. And spare me this fake moral high ground nonsense. They'd argue that, well, actually, Democrats are only now threatening to do it because Republicans are being so blatant and corrupt. It's a response to their corruption. Give me a freaking break. Miss me with that nonsense. If anything, Republicans are matching the Democrats on this issue. As we've been saying forever, the left has been gerrymandering for decades. In blue states, they've done worse than anything we've seen from Republicans. But now we're supposed to feel bad and pull back? Of course not. No, it's obvious what's going on here. They're simply panicking because they've run out of ways to game the system. They have nothing left to redraw, no seats to gerrymander, no mail-in ballot schemes to engage in, no more control of Twitter and the social media algorithms. Federal agencies are going through reforms right now. The NGO network, the NGO circuit that they created, has essentially been shut down. And so basically, they've lost all of their tools to cheat and rig the damn system. And now they're melting down because their power is finally in jeopardy. They're finally getting a taste of their own medicine. And I just gotta reiterate, now is not the time to have cold feet, to fall for this rhetoric, to fall for their emotional game, their theatrics, the dramatic, excessive displays and exaggerations. There's nothing corrupt going on here. There's no attack to democracy. No, the response from the GOP base should be quite the opposite. Frickin' double down. Good. That's the only word that should be said, frankly. There's no reason to apologize. If the plan right now is to get rid of Jasmine Crockett's seat and expand the Republican map, don't respond with, is that even legal? Can we do that? Are the Democrats gonna now do something in return? Is this the end of our democracy? No, just simply respond with, good. Jasmine Crockett's seat is getting deleted? Good. More GOP seats? The potential end of Democrat electoral viability? At least for the short term until they reform themselves and start winning based on the merits? Good. Yes, do it. Absolutely. Own it. This is politics, folks, not a church bake sale. And you don't win by giving mercy to people who have never once given mercy to you. Do not hold back, not even a little bit. And don't worry, trust me, don't worry about the fallout. Not gonna happen. This isn't a bad look for the GOP, no, quite to the contrary. It's the Democrats that are looking like complete fools, pretending like a simple redrawing of districts is now the second coming of Adolf freaking Hitler. Holy moly. And trust me, it's the Democrats who look bad, and the proof is in the leftist media. We've got longtime Democrat strategists here, in this case former Clinton advisor Doug Schoen, who are taking to the media and straight up saying that the behavior the Democrats are engaging in is, quote, very damaging.
I think this is very damaging, Trace, to the Democratic brand. For those in my party who say we should be aggressive, we should fight the Republicans, I think you stand and fight, not cut and run, which is what they've done. This sends a terrible message, I think, to voters generally and certainly swing voters, and it's become tit for tat. I would advise the Democratic legislators from Texas, go back, make your arguments, state your reasons for, as the Democratic representative did just now, opposing this, and say what you're for, what the Democrats stand for, both Texas and nationally. But so far, what we're getting is a really, really terrible image that hurts our country and certainly hurts my party.
Exactly. The Democrat brand is in the gutter right now precisely because of this kind of crap. It's been nothing but tantrum after tantrum after tantrum. And what have you noticed throughout all of this? The Democrats keep going lower and lower and lower. They're literally at rock bottom right now in terms of polling data. I've never seen the Democrats this weak. Not in my lifetime. Not in my time as an adult covering politics. That's for sure. We're just coming off the Obama era. It feels like we went through a little bit of a liberal revolution as of late. Well, we went from Democrats dominating the day to Democrats at the bottom of the freaking barrel, losing everything. And now, well, it seems like they're about to lose even more. The petulant screaming, the tantrums, aren't convincing the American people to turn on Texas and side with the Democrats. No, if anything, all they're doing is making things worse. What are they going to accomplish here? Nothing. Greg Abbott said it best recently.
So how does this thing end? I know that you guys are doing everything you can do to try to get these people back, and I know that you're getting some, what sounds like maybe federal help at this point to do it. Like, how does this end?
The way it always does, and that is the Democrats always come back. It could be tomorrow, it could be next week, it could be next month. They're going to come back, or we'll be able to track them down. One way or the other, they're coming back, and it's going to end with these maps being passed. And what I'm thinking now is if they don't start showing up, I may start expanding. We may make it 6 or 7 or 8 new seats. We're going to be adding on the Republican side.
Yeah. The wall just got 10 feet higher.
So what exactly are they accomplishing? Possibly being removed from office, massive stacking fines, potentially being arrested, and now as they're skipping the legislative sessions, they've turned the governor of Texas against them, and he's now saying, you know what? We might draw to get 7 or 8 seats at this point. The wall just got 10 feet higher, and our response should be simply one word: good. And so basically the point is, let's cut the high road talk, because the Democrats have never taken the high road. They don't deserve the high road. They don't deserve GOP charity. No, they deserve exactly what's happening right now. They deserve to be gerrymandered to the extreme like they've done to Republicans in their own states, and they deserve to be the irrelevant party in my view for the next at least freaking 10 years. And hopefully they're getting hit with a reality check that the little shenanigans that they engage in, well, they're no longer going to work, no longer a viable electoral strategy. The Democrats have to actually campaign now and develop grassroots support. They can fight it all they want, but I really wouldn't advise that because the more they fight, well, the taller the wall is going to get. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.